You're listening to It Factor, the podcast where we uncover the it in the IT-BPM industry. In this special episode, we look back at the history of how IT-BPM began in the Philippines with industry icons. Karen Batungbacal.
So I quickly learned that it was first a country sell before it was a company sell.
Dan Reyes.
The other challenge that we faced at the time was that people didn't really understand what it was all about.
Bong Borja.
Politicians, people in government realized the potential of one being able to provide jobs to our graduates who had very limited choices at the time, especially for white-collar work.
Fred Ayala.
There were moments of doubt, especially when faced with economic downturns or global competition. But each time we came back stronger.
And former Trade and Industry Secretary Mar Roxas.
Government took on the role of enabler. No, we just say, what is it that you need, and we will try and provide it. I believe that contributed to the success of our efforts.
I just happened to pick up the newspaper and I read an article how AOL, an internet service provider, had 500 seats in Clark's. And I'm thinking, AOL? They're not even present as an ISP in the Philippines. So that was the huge light bulb moment for me, because buy and tell, our partner was 9X Verizon, and all of our methods and procedures when we set up the phone company came from 9X Verizon. And so after that, in 2000, the customer service groups of these various entities like Sky Cable, Buy and Tell, ABS-CBN, and form a new company which we called Customer Contact Center, or CQ. So I knew, having spent time in customer service, having spent time in the US, that we in the Philippines definitely could answer the calls now being answered in the US. And that's how I started in the business. Luckily enough, we won our first account, and it was an American Express, Blue Box, and after that, we just took off.
I started in the IT-BPM industry late 90s, right? I actually had a business paper that I presented to our investors. And at that time, I had two investors. One said, we don't want to have any participation of that because it's something that we don't understand. The other one said, if you can find a partner in the Philippines, we'll kitty up 50% and we'll set up the first call center. Right? So we did. This was Contact World. Right? That was a joint venture between Salmat of Australia and PLDT. Actually, we were the first joint venture of ePLDT. At that time, if I remember, there was like only 2,000 seats in the Philippines, majority of which was with Philippine Airlines. And the other ones were just starting off.
I was based in Australia, and in 2000, a lot of executives were joining the .com bandwagon. These were the companies providing the initial e-commerce services and support to the companies doing e-commerce work, right? So if you formed the company and you were trying to sell your products or services over the internet, at the time, there was no kind of support that can be provided to the internet, right? So there were some companies, and one specifically, which I joined at that time, was People Support. And that company specialized, we initially specialized in providing customer support over the internet via chat. So we started that in the US, acquired a company in the Philippines in 2000, and that brought me back here in the Philippines, right? And that was, I think that was the genesis of how I started the BPO industry in the Philippines.
I got started in the IT-BPM industry a long time ago. This is back in the mid-late 90s when we invested in SPI Technologies. That was when I first joined the industry. And then shortly thereafter, we started eTelecare as a spin-off from SPI, as one of the pioneers in the voice industry. That gives me a lot of very, very fond memories of the early days in the IT BPM industry. It seems so incomprehensible that it was considered such a radical new thing, but selling this career was very difficult, right? I remember the early days when trying to persuade bright young folks to join us and start a career and persuade their parents as well was really quite a challenge.
Whenever we talk about the Philippines, the first question is, can you speak English? Right? Nobody actually knew, or at the time, very few knew about the Philippines, what's our capability. The other challenge that we faced at the time was that people didn't really understand what it was all about. In fact, when we go to the universities, they shun us, right? That they don't want to talk to us simply because they thought that it's a low-end type of work.
As I started to attend conferences and summits abroad, I saw when I entered these large conference centers that there would be booths selling Ireland, there would be a booth selling India, Australia, and I thought, wait a minute, where's the Philippine booth? They didn't know where the Philippines was. I would get questions like, are we off the coast of Puerto Rico, right? Where are we? Or the one that was very common was, what part of India is the Philippines? So I quickly learned that it was first a country sell before it was a company sell.
And I think that was also one of the reasons why we decided to band together, so that we can have a bigger voice, a stronger voice, and a unified voice in terms of being able to explain what our industry was all about, what we wanted to do, and what potential it can actually gain.
We thought that, in order to gain traction in the global market, to be known as a destination for call centers or BPO, that we really needed to band together to get our name out there, or rather the name of the Philippines as an outsourcing destination hub. And that's what we wanted to be initially, right? We wanted to be a location where, we are known for great service, and you could deal with any one of these 20, 30 companies, and you won't be let down.
It really was important to be able to advocate to the government in terms of really getting in place the right levels of incentives, the right levels of support.
Hence, I knocked on the door of DTI. At that time, we were very lucky to have Secretary Mar Roxas as our Secretary of Trade and Industry. He understood that the way the US operated, everything was transacted on the phone. Whether it was, where's my dry cleaning, or I want to make a booking, I want to go to Disneyland, everything was done on the phone. What he said to me early on was, Karen, I want to help you, but we in the government cannot help individual companies. You have to form an industry association, and then we as DTI can then partner with the industry association. So then, Dan Reyes, Bong Borja, myself, and a few others, we decided to form the first organization, which we called CFP, Contact Federation Philippines. CFP, that's IBPAP's precursor. CFP was formed just for voice, and we went with CFP to Secretary Mar and said, here we are, we're CFP, help us.
I was appointed by President Erap 2000 to the DTI, and at that time, not just the Philippines, but the whole world was suffering after the 98 ASEAN financial crisis. So recession, downturn in tourism, all across the globe. And one of the tasks there in particular was, how do we revive or maintain our current industries, as well as are there new industries that we can find or develop to hire people in particular, because jobs and incomes was very, very important. And I remembered during my years as a banker in the US, oftentimes the customer support were offshored, and just putting two and two together, like an aha moment, na we are English competent, we are US, America oriented as a people. We had like 3-4 million Filipinos already in the US. That this is something that we should explore. No? At the time, explore pa lang. We did not even know that it would work or not. No?
We got an invitation from then Secretary Mar Roxas, right? I remember it was in the Tower Club, wherein he invited us over. I was there, Bong Borja, Chris Bishauri of McKinsey and Company. We had a meeting there.
That was the time when the government was giving IT and IT-enabled services a big push. And the government, with Mar at the helm of the DTI and the BOI at the time, thought that that could be a niche for the Philippines.
We're all talking about how US companies were coping with the recessions by offshoring. So that was one data point. No? And mostly this was in Dominican Republic, Honduras, Ireland, and those were the areas that they were focusing on, just near shore to the US coast. So that led us to positioning that the Philippines as a alternative.
And he said that you were representing contact centers, right? And he mentioned, maybe you can actually make it representative of a bigger industry, more inclusive.
We wanted that flexibility of having the diversity of having different industry associations, whether it be animation or software, that really could be true to the concerns of their particular segment.
But in 2004, after 2 to 3 years of CFP, and now we had thousands of seats in the Philippines, we agreed to kill CFP, and we gave birth to what was then BPAP, Business Process Association of the Philippines, which then in a couple of years became IBPAP when we decided to start it with IT and Business Process Association. So we changed, we got the lawyers in, we changed the not just the spelling, but the spirit to include everything under the sun that were business processes, anything intelligent offshore to the Philippines. So that's how IBPAP was born. I was its first president, Dan was its first vice president, and Bong Borja was chairman. His tagline was, "Make it Philippines, make IT Philippines." And so we all went to Malacanang to do a show and tell for President Estrada. What is software coding? What does PSIA do? What is contact center? So we all had to demonstrate what we did so that he could understand it.
So all of these things put together, we just came up and we proposed it to then President Erap Estrada, and he said, "Yeah, whatever can help our people, we should support." And so that's how it started.
When we first, when we worked together with Chris Bishauri and McKinsey to put together an industry roadmap.
And hence the reason why he said, okay, I'll kitty up $50,000. If I remember, it's about $50,000 at that time. We can actually put together a roadmap, right? And it needs to be very pointed, very direct. It needs to actually have a big, hairy, audacious goal, right? And that's the reason why we then decided to work with McKinsey and Company at the time and say, we're going to produce 1 million jobs by 2010 and get 10% of the outsourcing and offshoring market globally. So that became now the initial BPAP Roadmap 2010, right? And what happened next was that there was a deluge of support that we got.
That's when I realized that we had made it. Because now McKinsey took us seriously. Not just McKinsey, the Gartner Group, etc. They recognized that while India was here when it came to technology, that the Philippines was fast rising and taking over at least one sector at that time, which was voice, and that we were becoming a major player. So McKinsey came in and did that roadmap, and we had executive directors reporting into Oscar Sanyas who were top caliber, who are now, running other associations or their own companies. So that's when I felt the trajectory would just be, at that point, exponential. And it has been since then.
Politicians, people in government realize the potential of one being able to provide jobs to our graduates who had very limited choices at the time, especially for white collar work. Two, we found that it could probably be an industry that could open up white collar opportunities in the provinces that were not there before. After Metro Manila, 2003, I remember Cebu is the first one we've set up. We found that it could probably be an industry that could open up white collar opportunities in the provinces that were not there before. And so if you look at Cebu today, it's almost like a BGC or an Eastwood that you would see there, right? And then the same is true in Davao. You see the same in Clark. You see the same in Bacolod, in Iloilo. And so even today, we keep on growing in the provincial areas and providing opportunities there. But I don't think any of this would have happened without, the BPO industry.
Government took on the role of enabler. No, we just what is it that you need, and we will try and provide it. I believe that contributed to the success of our efforts.
We believe that because the Filipinos has a very, very strong customer service-centric attitude, our incredible work ethic, and our love for the Philippines, we were able to stake our ground, not only to participate in the industry, but to lead in the global market.
The last 20 years have been incredible. But you know what? We've only gotten started.
We've laid the groundwork. Now, let's make it stronger and bigger.
I would like to see the Philippine BPM industry still, apply the wins that we've had before.
There were moments of doubt, especially when faced with economic downturns or global competition. But each time we came back stronger because we knew we were building something that would outlast us.
I mean, how we've grown, how we've evolved, how much value we're adding to what we're doing now. I believe that still the sky's the limit.
And that's it for today with It Factor. Thank you for tuning in with us. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow and subscribe to IBPAP on Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram. Catch the next episode on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. Till next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep finding the it that sets you apart.
Information technology and business process management. We are coders and programmers, agile animators, illustrators, auditors, analysts, from consultants to managers, nurturing nurses and doctors, data developers and testers, VA smiling CXRs and artificial intelligence engineers. Oh wait, there's more. We are problem solvers and number crunchers. We speak in several languages, including Java, Python, Python, and so on. And on and on and on. We create heroes and villains. We gain experience and level up in life.
We are the IT-BPM industry, working with the Philippines. Join us.
IBPAP.